Good evening. I'm Megan Luton, and I'm here with the Torch newspaper at the Nick Offerman performance at Williams Auditorium. Today we are interviewing students in line waiting for the performance. Okay, so what is your name, year, and major?
Nick Serafinoff. Would you like me to spell that for you?
Nope, you're all
No?
set.
What year am I? This is my fourth year, and I am in social studies secondary education.
Okay, and how excited are you for the show? Why are you here? What are you hoping to hear about? Stuff.
I'm really excited for the show. I have watched Parks and Rec a couple times. Ron Swanson is definitely one of my favorite characters on the show, and I've watched a couple of things from from Nick Offerman's like comedy, like stand-up, and I really enjoyed it. And so I'm really excited to come and see it, I guess.
So you're a pretty big Nick Offerman fan then?
Yeah, I definitely am.
Can I just start by getting your name, year, and major?
I'm Nicole. I'm a freshman, and I'm in music industry management.
Okay, and how excited are you for the show? Why'd you come? What are you hoping to hear references about?
I'm freaking pumped. I really like Parks and Rec, so I'm kind of hoping to hear about Parks and Rec.
Have you listened to any of other Nick Offerman stand-up shows?
No, I haven't, so yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Could I start by getting your name, year, and major?
My name is Jake Thompson. I am a fourth year in computer information technology.
Okay, and how excited are you for the show? Are you a big Nick Offerman fan?
You know, I've never seen his stand-up, but I've definitely seen him in Parks and Rec, and I think his character, Ron Swanson, is just too funny for me, so I'm pretty excited.
So are you hoping to get more Parks and Rec references, or what are you hoping to hear?
I honestly hope that I see like some Ron Swanson in it, because it's just his blank expressions when he's just like talking is just, it's too much. It's funny.
Okay, great, thank you.
So for me, I'm work for the university, so ours is going to be a little more serious, a little more student-oriented.
Okay, fuck that.
What is the kind of message you would give to a student to keep pursuing their dreams and to keep going on?
I would encourage them to keep pursuing their dreams and keep going on.
Okay, that works.
Well, it's interesting to be asked that at a college, because I feel like in my lifetime I've come to understand that a lot of people waste their time in college. I think college is amazing in a lot of ways. It certainly served me very well, but it's part of a conundrum in which the trades or physical work or working with one's hands has been degraded over the decades since the Industrial Revolution. And so that's my first piece of advice, is make sure you should be in college, because if you want to be a baker or a candlestick maker, you don't need college. And some of the woodworkers I've met, or luthiers or cobblers, never had a lick of college, but they're the smartest people I've come across. Farmers have an incredible intelligence that has nothing to do with Wall Street or economics or so-called climate change, which jury's still out on that, right?
Yeah.
They're talking to Puerto Rico, apparently, to see if they've had any recent changes in climate. But so that I'd ask yourself if you should be in college. If so, are you wasting your time? Are you getting something done that's going to help? Are you doing something that you love that will help you make money for yourself and your loved ones? And I would also say to cling to what's weird about you. That's always served me very well. That's all we have as human beings. Like, if we all try and achieve some sort of homogeneous platonic ideal of student or banker or, prostitute, there are obviously like high watermarks in all of those fields, but only by figuring out what's weird about you. Maybe you have a funny tooth shape that makes you a specialist prostitute, and you can bring a sensation to your work that no one else has. So find your own specific weird toothy blowjob and go to town.
Perfect. It kind of leads into the next question: is what is your views on the importance of work and doing what you love?
Well, that's kind of what I figured out backwards. Is I just had this feeling of that I really wanted to entertain people, which is weird, coming from this small town of salt of the earth public servants. that wasn't something one did, you know, with their life. And I was like, well, I think people do it though. Like, you know, and I've heard of people getting paid to memorize dialogue and then repeat it for an audience. Like, that's a thing people do. And once I got into it and was like, oh, I was right. I love this, and it doesn't seem like work. And to this day, I've been lucky enough to get paid for it for a long time, and quite frequently, my coworkers and I say we're so lucky because I'd pay to be here. This is so fun. And so it's quite simple. When I speak at colleges, I usually say, figure out what you love to do, and then figure out how to get paid to do it. And a lot of people then immediately try to get jobs masturbating when I offer that advice. And those jobs are available, but they're hard to come by. And that is, if you slow that down, that's a pretty funny thing to say.
And last thing I have is, what are some tips for a good life?
Tips for a good life. Determine as fulsome a definition as you can of recompense. Usually has a lot less to do with money and a lot more to do with hugs. But that, I've been very lucky. I've made a bunch of bread, a lot more than I ever thought I would as a theater major. But once I did, I quickly realized I wasn't any happier. In fact, I was more stressed, like, oh great, now I have to learn about interest rates and crap like that. But I come from a family where we take care of each other, we take care of our domicile, and we all cook together, and we have fun together, and that feels like a lot better pay than any paycheck I've ever gotten. Thank you for being gentle with me.
All right. Hi, I'm Harley Harrison. I'm the news editor at our school newspaper.
Hello, Harley.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Are you going to be able to use this same audio?
Yes.
Great.
So my
Because it's a long reach.
Yes, I'm special. I get to use the microphone.
It looks cool.
Do you still read print newspapers?
I do sporadically. I read it as a treat, but I get most of my news from the television. My wife and I watch the news. And I also get some news from Twitter. I follow the New York Times and the LA Times and the Washington Post and Sean King and some other writers in Hollywood that are really smart and decent. And I use them as a source of news, where they say, okay, they've rolled out another healthcare gambit, and here's what's going on, and that's something that I really like about social media is you can quickly you can connect the dots of a story in a way that if you read the newspaper, you can read a story and say, gosh, I wish I could read the 3 other stories that they're referring to. So I'm still doing like a combo pack. I admire newspapers, and I'm definitely interested in keeping them around, whether, I'm getting it delivered on my doorstep or not.
And I'm a little biased, but what is your favorite section of the newspaper?
Favorite section of the newspaper? That's tough. I love a big Sunday newspaper, and I usually do my best to be a good student and read the news stories of the day, but I relish, in order, arts and entertainment, because that's my bag. And then I really like if there's anything involving nature or real estate or travel. I sort of ball all of that together, because that's usually where there's pretty pictures of trees of some sort and where I can find them. And sports, depending on what's going on, and then, of course, the funnies.
All right, and I have a few student-selected questions for you.
Uh-huh.
The first being, what relationship advice do you have?
Well, swallow your ego. That's, any problem I've had getting kissed in my life, it's usually because of an ego problem where I think, this person is not, or this dog won't pay any attention to me at all, or these farm animals, or sometimes it's been, I've pursued humans in love, and pretty much settled on that. But it's, when I have disagreements with my wife, the easiest way to solve them is to take a deep breath and say, you know what, we're both right, or we're both wrong, or it doesn't really matter, but I'll say I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I got upset. Can we please start kissing again? That's my advice. Also do jigsaw puzzles together. That leads to a happy bedroom.
Do you eat corn on the cob in circles or rows?
Great question. Rows for sure. It's the typewriter. And once I start, I rarely stop. I chug down the entire ear. And I'm talking Illinois corn, not puny Indiana crap.
What about Michigan corn?
They have corn in Michigan?
Yes, they do.
I'm sure it's robust, but I won't weigh in on it.
Okay, and then the last question pertains to your facial hair and how you groom it.
The secret to my facial hair is I don't shave.
Do you shampoo your mustache and beard?
No, I wash it with soap. And when my beard grows fulsome, I keep a little oil around in case I run into trouble with the comb. But I generally don't do anything to it.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'll be the last random person asking you questions tonight, hopefully.
Thank you. What's your name?
My name is John Guston. I'm with the student radio station.
Nice to meet you, John.
Nice to meet
I can
you.
tell from your timbre. My name's John Guston with the student radio station. You're listening to WKX, Ferris State.
Yeah, we're still working on that call sign part. The whole FM signal died a long time ago, so we'll be coming back eventually.
Sure.
Now, my question for you is, I was diving into your background, and I was wondering, when did you get into high-level woodworking? Because when did you go from whittling to making canoes for friends and things like that?
Well, it's pretty traceable in hindsight. I grew up in a farm family and learned to use tools of all sorts from my dad, my uncles, and my grandfathers. And by the time I was a teenager, I was framing houses. I was working on a blacktop crew in the summers to pay for stuff. But my family, we built a couple barns, fences, decks, porches. So I was good at swinging a hammer when I started theater school. I quickly learned that I could make money building scenery while trying to become an actor. And I did that successfully. I went to Chicago, and while I was learning to work on stage as an actor, I was working as a professional theater carpenter. And I had my own shop by the time I left Chicago in my late 20s. And so I was skilled at working in a shop with tools. Then when I got to Los Angeles, I couldn't find the same theater work. So I sort of fell back on decks, and I was building cabins in people's yards, just kind of backyard follies. And it was then, there were some great craftsmen bungalows and houses in Southern California, particularly built by these brothers named Green and Green, that are just crazy works of art, where the joinery of the timber framing of the building was the decoration, and they had some Asian influences. So there were these craftsman lodges that had a touch of like a Japanese temple to it. They're just immaculate. There's a few that are still maintained like museums. So I had seen these, been very inspired by them, and I'm building these cabins, and I said, I'm gonna do some timber framing and be inspired by Green and Green. And it was then the joinery in timber framing is the same joinery, just larger, that you find in heirloom furniture. So I was making these huge mortise and tenon joints. It's a way of fastening wood together with no nails or screws, making large puzzle pieces out of wood. And it just hit me one day, I think I was 28, and I said, oh, if I shrink this down, I could make a beautiful, fine woodworking table. And I was just besotted from that moment to this. I was like, I can make beautiful things out of wood. And so I rented a shop and just started learning, and I haven't stopped. I'm just learning as much as I can. So I'm working on a batch of ukuleles right now, on my way towards making some guitars. And if I succeed in that, I'll probably maybe make a couple more boats. Boats are really fun. Maybe a mandolin. Who knows?
So just a quick follow-up on that. You really expressed the appreciation for the joining without having fasteners and things like that. Have you had a chance to go to the Globe Theatre in London? It's the recreation, for those listening, of Shakespeare's theater that was built with old-fashioned techniques.
I've not. I've walked past it. It's south of the Thames, and I looked at it. I was on a sculpture walk, an art walk with my wife and some friends, and I said, I need to get in there and check that place out.
It's really cool.
I reckon.
Yeah, I highly recommend if you have a chance. There's some cheap seats. I don't know if you could sneak in, but they're really good views.
Maybe I'll audition for something and play Forest Lord number 2 in As You Like It, which would give me tons of time to examine the joinery around the stage.
So how does someone go from the farm, woodworking, Chicago, or the parts of the country in Illinois side to acting and theater? What was that transition that brought you? Because those are two opposites, at least how people perceive them.
Well, anywhere you get a bunch of people together, somebody's going to put on a show at some point. And so my high school was very small, my town was very small, but we did plays and musicals. We did a play in the fall and a musical in the spring, I think, or vice versa. It's been a while. And so, I was in the band, I was in the chorus in junior high, I was in the swing choir. I had a penchant for it. I was an altar boy in the Catholic Church, and I used to get laughs during Mass until my dad explained to me that was not the time nor the place to get laughs. And so I don't know, I had this itch to entertain people, and so it took me a while to come around to figure out how to use what I'd been given to be very successful at entertaining people, which is why I'm glad I was able to build scenery for a living, because it took me into my mid-20s to kind of comprehend how to use the tools I'd been given, to realize that I was not Tom Cruise. And instead I was some strange human all on my own, and that was my greatest value. And so then building that is what I think allowed me to get some work. But I mean, my family's very funny. We'd go fishing. We had a cabin deep in the woods in Minnesota, and as kids in this broke-ass little cabin, there was an 8mm camera, and then there was a video camera, and so we'd make movies, and they were terrible, dumb, family kids screwing around movies, but I think that exists everywhere, and I would occasionally get to the bigger towns to see shows for one reason or another, or I'd go to Chicago. I remember going to a couple different colleges for school trips to see plays, and just having it really excite me and think I'd like to try that.
My final, most important question of the night is a hot dog a sandwich?
Absolutely not. Unequivocally, it is not a sandwich. If you slice a hot dog into slices, long ways, and place those slices between 2 pieces of bread, then you have made yourself a hot dog sandwich. But a hot dog in a bun is not a sandwich, nor is any sausage in a hot dog bun. And I'm willing to go to the mat on that opinion.
Thank you.
My pleasure.